The most active assets from last week, in my opinion, were indices. So today I'm going to be covering NAS, more specifically a weekly cycle that allowed me to predict how the week was going to form with a 78% accuracy. So let's get into the video. So first, let's start with what I was actually looking at on indices going into the week. So on the monthly, price has taken out this level of sell side liquidity, and we've actually tagged this bullish order block. Now, the most significant thing about the monthly time frame, in my opinion, is this rejection away. Okay, we have a huge rejection after price took the liquidity, so we're reacting away from this level very aggressively. Now, on the weekly time frame, we do have these relative equal highs at the top of the leg. That is potentially going to be a target for price and a drawn liquidity. But one thing I did keep front of mind is the fact that the weekly is still in a sell program. Okay, we still were respecting bearish PD arrays, right? Price respected this FVG and then respected this order block. So the order flow on the weekly technically is bearish, right? But if we're anticipating that price is going to turn around from this liquidity level and given the monthly rejection, then we can still anticipate a bullish week with the right confirmations. Now, the confirmation I wanted to see was a sweep of liquidity followed by a CSD. Okay, now the logic behind this is once price manipulates some kind of liquidity and builds that bullish order flow with the CSD, that bullish order flow should hold until price reach some kind of buy side liquidity. So I like to see this form on like the 4-hour time frame. Then I'll be pretty confident that the low of week has been set in, and then I align that as well with the weekly cycles that I use. I'll be showing you the particular weekly cycle I used in this video and how you could have used it to predict the high of week with a 78% accuracy. So that was my thought process for the week. I was bullish. I wanted to see price form a clear low of week in alignment with the weekly cycles. And I create a game plan like that for all of my assets before the week starts. And I actually put it all together into a weekly outlook video that I dropped for free in the free Telegram. So if you want to get these weekly outlook videos every single Sunday, go and join the free Telegram. I'm pretty sure this video is dropping on Sunday, so there'll be a weekly outlook dropping today in the Telegram. So go ahead and watch that and you'll see what I'm looking at going into next week. So let's take a look at how the week actually started to form once the market opened up, okay? So I will say this, okay? Monday and Tuesday were very uneventful here, right? If I play out Monday and Tuesday, okay, even if we go onto the 4-hour, that'll give you a good idea as to what the price action was like. It was very, very slow price action, no real impulses. Price built relative equal lows here. So it really was just setting up for that manipulation that I look for, right? We generated liquidity. So the whole time price is moving slow and we have this liquidity built down here, I'm not trading, right? If I know that I'm waiting for a sweep of liquidity to form the low of week, then I'm not going to be trading until we get that, okay? So I was simply waiting for that to get manipulated. And something that was really nice is those equal lows were resting above this daily FVG here. Okay, so we had a nice bullish PD array that price could potentially react from after taking out those lows. So I'll let it play out. And as you can see, price manipulated very nicely into the daily FVG. We took out these relative equal lows. So we've had the manipulation now. Great way to think of this is weekly power of 3. Okay, very, very simply, it can be boiled down to just weekly power of 3. Okay, we're looking for the week to open up and move lower before running to whatever target you may have. Okay, so we're looking for price to move lower. Ideally, that's going to manipulate liquidity, like I said, and form some kind of clear low of week. And then from there, you know, we should just have clear bullish price action. So let's get into the weekly cycle that was present in this scenario that allowed me to predict the high of week very, very accurately. So this particular weekly cycle is called Wednesday reversal cycle, okay? And the way that it forms, if I just draw out the weekly power of 3, is price will form the low of the week on Wednesday, okay? So Monday and Tuesday don't really matter. It can do whatever. In this case, it was very, very ideal that Monday and Tuesday simply were just generating liquidity, right? We just built up all of this low resistance liquidity for Wednesday to come and manipulate. Once Wednesday has manipulated and is given some kind of confirmation that is going to the upside. Now, if I go on the 15-minute here, you can see we had that confirmation. Okay, we got this 15-minute CSD, and this actually took place during AM session, right? So if we know that these indices run in AM session, we've had this very clear manipulation, then this is a good sign that price is turning around from this level, okay? So we got that first part of the weekly cycle formed, okay? We've had a manipulation. Wednesday has formed a low, and we've got a little bit of confirmation that price is turning around, okay? So once you're confident that Wednesday is holding that low of week, then you can anticipate Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to impulse. So if you have a bullish bias, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday should run to the upside. And this is where that 78% statistic comes in, okay? There is a 78% chance that Friday forms the high, right? There's a 78% chance that Friday forms the high of the week. How did I find that out? Through my own back testing, okay? I went through, I think, 5 years worth of data on indices, looking at these weekly cycles, and I found that price had a 78% chance of forming the high on Friday. That's the weekly cycle we was looking at for the week. Now, one thing I can't stress this enough is these weekly cycles have to be taken within context, right? You have to already have that bullish idea. Otherwise, why would you anticipate Wednesday to reverse from this level, right? You had to have already been anticipating higher prices. So now this has formed, we're anticipating Friday to form the high of week, right? And we know that there's a 78% chance of that happening. So we can simply look to buy until Friday forms the high of week, essentially, okay? So let's go over a couple of nice clean opportunities that presented this week. So the one on Wednesday, I've already played out a little bit. Essentially, we had that manipulation into the daily FVG, okay, through these relative equal lows. It aligned with the weekly cycle. We're anticipating a bullish week already. This is known as the AM manipulation cycle. I'm not going to get too much into it in this video, but that's the cycle that it was, okay? So AM, we had a clear manipulation followed by a 15-minute CSD, okay? So we formed this bullish order block. Now, that could have actually been your entry. So you could have entered there. You could have put your stop loss at the low, and you could have just targeted either 1 to 2 if that's what you like to do, or you could have targeted this high. It's completely up to you. I personally like going for a 1 to 2. Now, one thing I will say about indices is that if AM session is pushing towards your target, so let's say we're looking for this buy side liquidity to get ran, but it doesn't quite reach it, PM session has a very high chance of just simply continuing the move. Okay, so if I play this out, you can see AM session, this dark gray box, doesn't reach the target. PM session is the lighter gray one. As you can see, PM session continued the move. Now, I personally don't trade PM session because it would just make my trading day so long, you know, from the start of London to the end of PM. However, that's a nice little tip, right? If your AM session play doesn't quite reach the target, it's very likely that PM session is going to run until that target is reached, as long as you got your target right. So let's get into Thursday's bias. Now, this was actually a very interesting day because it was the start of a new month, okay? So the monthly candle of April closed out on Wednesday, and as Thursday opened up, it was a brand new month, okay? Now, what I like to do at the start of a new month is look at previous month's high and the previous month's low levels, okay? And I'll use one of them as my draw. So obviously, if I'm bullish, we've just had this massive rejection, prices closed like this, I'm not going to be targeting previous month's low all the way down here when price opens up here, right? I don't have the context for that. That would just be fucking stupid. But what we do have is previous month's high in very, very close proximity. So that's just another level of buy side liquidity that we can look to target, okay? So I'll mark this previous month's high, and then we'll look at how Thursday traded through it. Okay, so this here is the start of Thursday's price action, and you can see it came in very close proximity to previous month's high. So we've built equal highs there. We know we're in alignment with the Wednesday reversal cycle, where Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday should impulse to the upside. Now, in terms of what to use as a buy zone, all we have to do is follow the bullish order flow, right? Once this low of week has been set in and price is forming clear bullish order flow, which we are, right? You can see we have this bullish order block forming on the 4-hour. That order flow should hold until we reach our main target or until the weekly cycle ends. So if we're going to be following the order flow, we're just going to look at what bullish PD arrays are here. Okay, we have this 4-hour FVG and we have this 4-hour FVG here. Now, potentially you run into the issue of not knowing which FVG to use as your buy zone, but in all honesty, it doesn't matter, right? What we're looking for here is a sweep of liquidity into the buy zone, right? And so into either of these FVGs, followed by some kind of entry protocol, right? So some kind of lower time frame bullish CSD, right? That's what we're looking for. It doesn't matter whether price does it in this FVG or this FVG. You're simply going to monitor both of them and wait and see which one it happens within. Okay, so you would simply mark up both of them and look for that liquidity sweep and entry. So here on the 15-minute, this dark gray box is AM session. Okay, AM session has manipulated this liquidity into that 4-hour FVG. So now we're anticipating that AM session is going to run to the upside, and we have this previous month's high here as a draw. So if I play it out, you'll see AM session runs to the upside and we target previous month's high. Now, after taking out previous month's high, okay, price gave a little bit of a retracement back into internal range liquidity, right? This previous month's high is external range liquidity. This 4-hour FVG is internal range liquidity, okay? So after rebalancing internal range liquidity, it makes sense to go and target external again, okay, which is going to be an old high. And we have this old high here. Now, this is where you would have been able to anticipate with very high probability price was going to run back to the upside, okay? Because this high, right, where the external range liquidity is marked, is on Thursday. So currently, Thursday is the high of the week. Now, we know with this Wednesday reversal weekly cycle, there's a 78% chance price is going to form the high of the week on a Friday, okay? So we know there's a 78% chance price is going to run from this internal to target that external range liquidity. And if I play out Friday's price action, right, you can see that's exactly what happened. Price reached for the external range liquidity. Now, the high of week has been formed on Friday. And the great thing is I use this weekly cycle on other assets, okay? I've tested it on the dollar index, USD pairs, and I've also tested it on gold. And they all had basically the same probability of Friday forming the high of week. So yeah, that's the video. I hope you found value in it, and I'll catch you on the next one.